Hi there, good afternoon from
Hi.
the UK. This is Lou
John.
and John. And for those of you who've just joined the website, welcome. It's lovely to have you.
Yep.
These are a series of videos that we try and do every week called Heart to Heart. Basically, it's not scripted. We always wanted it to be just a sense of us sitting down, talking naturally to you. So it will be spontaneously us. But the flip side of that is there'll also be quite a lot of spontaneous ums and ahs. And, we hope that's all right with you. We did check it out with people, and they seem to say that this is the style that they liked best. So welcome in the lockdown. We're locked down. We're self-isolating here. And I suspect wherever you are, unless you live some remote place, that you're doing the same. And so we thought we would talk about something called de-escalation.
De-escalation.
Yeah, so what does that mean? He's the posh professor, so we will ask the professor.
I haven't got a clue. De-escalation just means sort of, calming things down. That's all it really means.
Yeah, and we are in a pressure cooker. I don't know whether you're there with your drinker or with your family and your drinker. So we're very aware that these are unprecedented times is the word that keeps coming up. So we know what it's like to live with a drinker. John was a problem drinker, but nobody knows what it's like to go through a pandemic and be in a lockdown. So we're going to share some stuff, but please, if you are finding some tips, you're finding some ways that are working for you, nobody's the expert in a pandemic lockdown because we've never had one before. So we're throwing our kind of sense and our ideas out, but please get on the forum. And if you're kind of listening to us and thinking, oh, well, there was something that worked for me the other day, then please, you are our best resource, you members, because you're going through this all the time. So please feel free. And if this one doesn't kind of fit you, we're really sorry because, again, we are trying to kind of rack our brains to think of how best to help you at this time.
Yeah. So why are we talking about this at this particular moment in time? For some of you, it might be completely obvious why we're talking about this. I've been talking to a number of people by Skype and by phone, and it's similar stories coming out, that the drinking has actually been highlighted for the very reason that, that people are jammed together. You can't get away from each other, and because of that, the things that may have gone unnoticed are actually being magnified a bit, So we also, if you look at the news, you'll find that violence within the home has gone up. Domestic abuse is on the rise. Drinking is on the rise. So this lockdown is having repercussions that might not have been anticipated.
No,
but it's like everything else, when you put pressure onto a system, which is like a family, a family system, cracks start to appear. And you might be finding that cracks are starting to appear.
And do post us on social media. We're again reaching out to people to say that we're here. It is a free site and there's a lot of resources here. And it's the sort of thing, if you know that this is helpful, people don't often share us. We're not an easy thing to share because people think that, maybe it's, exposing for them. But I think it's quite easy in this environment to say, hey, we know of this free website for drinkers and we know that drinking is a bit of a problem, domestic violence. So, so you can do it as a helpful citizen at the moment, and it doesn't necessarily have to expose you. So this is a time when actually our work, we can get it out there more openly, I think, than we have before.
And we try to make this a very non-judgmental website.
Absolutely.
You may have noticed that, or you might not have. But I mean, we try to be very non-judgmental. The reason being, we've been there, so who are we to judge you? So we try to make it matter of fact, pragmatic. Here we are. Yeah. So in terms of de-escalation, we thought that at this moment in time, this might be a good thing to talk about. Some of the stuff that we've talked about before. I make no apologies for that because repetition is actually very good sometimes. We forget, we forget the things that are important sometimes, but we overlook them, because they seem so obvious to us. and then somebody mentions it and you go, oh, right, yeah, maybe I should have remembered that.
Absolutely. And some of you may not have actually got to the point where you've read much of what we've said or listened to much. So, first thing, de-escalation, basic rule, never argue with a drunk.
Bad idea.
Yeah. It is really hard. I think the flashpoint for me is when I know something is happening, and I got I was very hypervigilant. I kind of knew before he would admit it. Often he wouldn't admit it. Then I would perhaps go finding bottles, or I might suddenly find him with a bottle. And the rage at that point is really, really high, because not only have you caught them with a bottle, but you've caught them out in a lie.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot on the forum about that.
Yeah, there's been a bit about lies in the forum, and it's one of these perennial problems that keeps coming up. Why does he or she lie about how much they drank? Why did he or she lie that they drank at all? And
we will talk about that. I think we're going to do a video on disclosure to go with this. So I think we will talk a little bit more about that. So don't argue with the drunk. The problem is in lockdown, you've got children. And I know that my eldest son got to the point where he began to take on his dad.
Yeah.
So again, that's the other reason we're doing a disclosure video alongside this, because some stuff you might have wanted to keep for your children and actually managed to do quite successfully may be becoming just really too obvious for you to just shut out a bit. But whether the kids are little or whether they're older, I think you do need to educate them at this and say, if you talk back to your dad or your mum when they're in a bad mood, if they're kids, or if they're drinking, then you will make the situation worse for you and us, and that is really important that you get that message across.
Yeah. That's the first rule of de-escalation.
Yeah, it is.
Don't escalate.
Yes, and it is the hardest thing. The other thing is watch out too, because I found that my drinker began to pick fights with me, and the other unfairness is it would be something that would go past the rest of the month, and normally he wouldn't care about at all, and then suddenly he'd take up what we call in England umbrage. He suddenly start challenging me about something, and again that sense of unfairness that used to just come up at that point, that normally it would be fine, and so again the temptation to just begin to argue back at that was really high. So it is something you have to train yourself to do. But what I learnt is I might have felt, better for a minute, but what I got back and what got worse was not worth it. And again, I think use the forum to express those emotions.
Yeah, use the forum. I mean, what we normally we talk about, outside of this kind of period is, pick your battles.
Yeah.
If you've got to have an argument, make sure it's something that's important. In this kind of environment, everything feels important. Everything feels sort of, that it can be a flashpoint. Just be careful about that one.
But definitely never where they're drinking. I think the point you're making, I think alongside this, is that this is not a good time to unpack stuff. Like I do marriage guidance with people, and under lockdown, I was just about to start with a couple, but actually I said, look, we'll do a few holding kind of strategies if you like, but if you unpack something, there's usually more steam around that for a while, and it would be a wrong time to do that in this pressure cooker.
This is a time for survival. It's not a time for resolution. Your resolution comes later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think also in that, in terms of de-escalation, is I suppose the negotiation of boundaries.
I think, the build a lifeboat before you need it comes in here, I think. Is negotiate boundaries, negotiate things right at the beginning, rather than argue about, the fact that, your drinker is sitting in front of the telly, and dominating the place. Then, maybe negotiate some boundaries beforehand. By boundaries, I don't necessarily mean geographical. It can actually be about time as well. For example, if you've got young kids, then maybe and you know that your drinker's going to drink. You know within yourself that's going to happen. It's almost inevitable. You'd rather it didn't. Yes, but you know it's going to happen, then maybe negotiate the fact that, okay, well, while the kids are up, don't drink, but maybe drink afterwards. So that's a time one. Another one might be, that don't drink, or if you've got to drink, don't sit in front of the television when the kids want to sort of watch a wee bit of television, go to another room, that sort of thing. So it's about, minimising the conflict, but also minimising the disruption that the drinker causes.
Yeah, and the point we're making again, because this is a pressure cooker situation, you're more likely to make healthy headway with a statement like, as you're likely to drink during this time, could we have the lounge and you have the thing, or could we, my husband, I managed to get him out to the conservatory, and there was more risk because he was a smoker, so I think at this point, phrases like, as you're likely to be drinking, could we decide who, what space we're going to have, and then he doesn't feel, or she doesn't feel, as if you're robbing them of probably something that they're using even more to get through this time. If they use drink as an anaesthetic or a coping mechanism outside of the pandemic and lockdown, they are much more likely to use it inside. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah. This is a negotiation. It's it's not sort of, how would you put it? You're not imposing this. You're going to negotiate it, and if you're negotiating, you might have to give a little. To get a little. So it's pragmatic. If you realise that they're definitely going to drink, okay, let's see if we can put some boundaries around it. Let's see how we can make it as less disruptive as possible. And I have to say that even when during my drinking, I considered myself honourable. Therefore, I would want to. I would want to sort of keep to those boundaries. I would like to honour those boundaries. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. But the intention was there. And with your drinker, if they agree to it, then the intention will be there. Sometimes they might not keep them.
Yeah. Just, you'll come across this in the programme, but try and stand back from what often turns out to be empty threats. If you do this again, I will do that. It's a very, very common phrase, if you do this one more time, I will leave you. Actually, that often doesn't happen, so it becomes kind of a just empty noise to your drinker. They don't actually listen to it as a threat. It just makes you feel more upset because you feel more and more powerless. And one of the things we do say in the programme is choose your moment to have your confrontation, know what you're doing, know how you're doing it, know the best way of doing it, and to have maximum impact at that point.
The problem about ultimatum is unless you carry them through, then generally speaking, the next time it just doesn't work. The time after that doesn't work. It's an empty threat. And if you're making ultimatums, then they're usually fairly large ones, and you really don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
In fact, I think I would probably say, as counsellors and psychologists, that making any major decisions in the pressure cooker of this lockdown is probably very unwise.
Yeah, it's an artificial situation.
Yeah, this is about getting through. This is having strategies and survival mechanisms to just get through this period and see what's happening. I think it is fairly likely that one or two people, or maybe more than one or two people, will decide that's it. This will be the last straw for some of you. It'll just really heighten what you've been through, and maybe the one thing that'll come out of this lockdown is that you decide that you can't do this anymore. That would be really understandable. And can I say at this point in the website is we support you to stay, but we also support you to go if you're at that point.
Yeah, but this lockdown has also gone the other way as well. There's one or two people have actually started, find out that them and the drinker are actually talking. They're talking in a way that they've never spoken before, and that's good. It's moving to a positive. For some, it might be the opposite way, and there might be some casualties along the way. So,
some strategies for de-escalation. We're in the UK. We are allowed exercise times, and you can use that as a kind of a de-escalation. For example, if the drinking gets bad after the meal at night, then with the summer evenings coming in, then maybe that's the time when you and your kids go for a walk. You get out, then you come back, you take them to bed, or even if they're older, you can do that. Or any flashpoint where it's likely to be difficult, maybe not a particular time each day, but have it there so that if you think things are escalating, then you get out of the house, because it's a really good strategy. Leaving the house usually works very well, or certainly leaving the room or leaving that floor, or whatever. So that's a really good de-escalating kind of situation. But also within yourself, for example, de-escalation by having a game that the kids can play that you bring out at that moment, having a particular video for you, having a bath, or whatever, because that de-escalates the feelings that are rising up. So it isn't just about stopping him, it's about stopping all the stuff that's going on in you. So have some diversions, and some treats and stuff. I used to usually buy the kids some sort of meal. We went out, or we'd have a thing. Can't do that now, but try and be creative. Again, think ahead, figure out the best way of doing it.
Yeah, if you're not got kids, and it's just yourself, then headphones, music, audiobook, that sort of thing. Even if you can't get out of the house, it's do something to sort of divert and also entertain yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, try and be good to yourself during this time.
Absolutely.
As much as you possibly can. I mean, there's tons and tons of stuff on the internet at the moment, which is just amazing. Some of the really amazing stuff on the internet, and the ingenuity of people is tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we say a lot again. Think ahead, strategies. What's likely to happen, and be realistic about that. If the drinking is going on, or if there's likely to be a binge, I used to live in this kind of airy-fairy hope, because I always got that this is going to stop now. So I bought into that, and so the disappointment was really strong. And it changed a lot for me when I recognised, unless something major happened, this was my life for a while, so I better actually plan around it.
I used to do a wee bit of sailing, and one of the things we used to do is, as soon as we got on the boat, we'd put on a sort of life vest right away. Sometimes you think, I don't really need this, but you put it on. Why? Because one day you just might. So it's about planning ahead. It's about recognising, things can happen and often do. Don't be surprised by them. Because if it happens every day, don't be surprised that it happened that Tuesday and go, oh, jinx, didn't expect that to happen. Why? It's happened every other day. Why not?
You'll also then feel...
But people do live in that kind of, over-optimistic way,
Well, they do.
Sometimes.
Yes. Magical thinking is called,
So it's... wee bit of planning actually goes an awful long way.
The other thing to plan in is to have a dump friend, particularly in the lockdown. If you have a friend who knows what's going on, or a family member, again, the forum, somewhere where you can get out the height of emotion, so that you don't project it onto the kind of the volatility of the drinking behaviour. So have a buddy and just say, can I just sometimes dump on you? And again, then you can go there rather than bringing it into here.
And there's so many ways to do that now, with Skype, Zoom, FaceTime, all that sort of stuff, or just a phone. Just a phone. Or even just text. And of course we have the forum. And the forum, I'm happy to say, is getting a wee bit busier now. There's some lovely sort of posts where people are supporting each other, and for everybody that's doing that, thank you. For everybody that's not doing it, investigate. You might be surprised, and you might find it's really, really useful.
And one obvious thing, if you've arrived as a drinker, we have a whole site to support your family member, your partner, or your mum and your dad, or whatever. So do direct them there, because I promise you, as a drinker, if they are using our site, your life will be made easier as well as theirs, and vice versa. If you're a family member, the website for drinks is there, and John did it, and it's low threshold approach. We've made it easy for them to get in. So again, when you have a moment where you're actually talking to each other, say, could you just use this other site? So it's a resource that is there for you. So do use it.
And another resource is me. you can book some time and speak to me. I can help you sort of put together a plan if you want.
Yeah.
I can help you to put together a plan. If you're the drinker and you want to do something about your drinking, I can help you. If you're the partner, then I can help. I can help you to put some boundaries in place. You know, that's what I'm here for. Yeah.
And I also Healing Stream is a CD that I did up quite a lot of music, but this is the one that kind of still has hung around as I've done less singing. And it is specifically for people going through it. Now, I have a faith, and one of the reasons I have that faith is because somebody I found out actually in the end, turned up to help me when I was going through this. And so some of these are what was kind of spoken into me, and some of those are things that I kind of wailed back. But if you're going through trauma, lots of people over the years, as long as you're not going to be offended that there's a spirituality at the core of it, lots of people have come back to me and said that they have found it really kind of helpful. And because it's music, again, this is something to de-escalate. You can just go put your headphones on and tune out from the bad situation and tune in to somebody who really loves you. That is my experience, you know. And we want to be respectful here, but I want to help you. So if that's a resource, we don't push it on anyone, but please take it if you feel it would be helpful, and you just donate whatever you feel like.
And the music is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I can say that because I'm a fan.
Yeah.
You know, it is lovely music. Beautifully sung, beautifully played by a very highly trained musician.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to go now because I'm embarrassed. We're going to have to finish this video
Yeah.
now. Okay, so do listen out for the one on disclosure, which is we're going to put up as well. Can I just thank you? People are still donating to the Chain of Care.
Yeah.
This is a free membership site, but we just say, look, this will keep going. If you could help us to support the people that are going to come here. If you give to us, somebody in 6 months' time is going to turn up and get the help that you're getting. Obviously, we don't want you to donate if it's not helpful, but if it is helpful, every penny goes straight back in to helping people further down the road. So if you feel you can do that, and we're particularly touched because a lot of people are stretched financially. So we really want to thank you for that. Those who've done it, we're always touched when you do it, but it's particularly touching now. And we just thank you that you're continuing to do that, which you think is amazing.
It's lovely. It's lovely. I mean, this is a time when all around the world people are coming together in a way that they haven't done before, and and we think that the Chain of Care is actually a nice way to come together. And we're not talking just financially. We're talking about the forum. We're talking about all sorts of different ways. So thank you for everybody that's donated, everybody that's posted, everybody that's supporting somebody else. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's our sort of vision. Anyway. And it's lovely to see it happen before our eyes.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for listening. Again, see you in the next video.
Just on that what I was talking about, there's a comment section down there. Please comment. And if you've got any tips, that would help other people, put them down there. Because we know quite a lot, but we don't know everything. We really don't know everything, and we're always on the lookout for new tips. So if you have a good one, or even one that's just working for you, put it on down there.
Sure.
That'd be great.
Yeah. And remember, you matter. Your walk matters. Your pain matters.
Absolutely.
So, take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye. God bless.
Bye.